band is this?
Everybody poops sometimes.
Give us this.
Wake up, sweetness.
Your first time should be more than special.
I'm in, Savannah said. Good Lord, Gemma.
When a man and a woman, in this case, really, really love each other, what happens is they fuck.
Ooh, hello?
Oh, dang it, I lost my fish. This next word almost sounds like Quidditch. Quidditch milade Diana Agosiagath an Fiedian. As much as I love fucking you, sweetness, we stared into each other's eyes whilst I moaned in ecstasy. Having consumed half of the bourbon, I keep saying bourbon. You know, every time I mess up on a word, Stunt Mama just shows up.
She had her seductive smile on her lips.
I said we couldn't have sex. I didn't say anything about everything else. Ew. Happy to help. Biatch. You are the spark of light and the vastness of my night. His note, like a finality to a beautiful, breathtaking song. And good evening. Oh, look, at an ad break. Maybe. Supposedly. Yet to be determined. It's great to see you all. Welcome to Sunday. You just ended yours? Well, that's fantastic. Everyone else has to suffer in silence. My achy, breaky heart. I just don't think you'd understand. Hi, Stunt Mama's mama. Good to see you. And Mitchell, congratulations on claiming first place. Top marks. I hope you've all had a good, wonderful, fulfilling weekend in whatever shape or form that is. Mr. Rhino claiming almost first. Congrats to you. Atkinbro. Rampagingson. We'll have to work on that. Rhinokinson, I think works. What was I saying? Oh, a good weekend. Yes, I hope you've all had a good weekend. It's been, gosh. There's been a lot of emotions from Friday to now. Yeah. Some not so great, some good, and we've had stormy weather as well, to throw that in the mix, absolutely. Is everything okay? Well, we don't know yet. And I'm gonna do my best not to get emotional, because that's not why we're here. But, let's just say more tests have to happen, and it's not for me. It's not for me. It's actually a lot harder to talk about than I thought. Hi, Rio. Rio and friends. Thank you for raiding. My wife had some imaging done on Friday. We don't have more information other than she has to go back to have further imaging because they found something. But it was tough to find out. But again, it could be nothing. We just don't know. So we're gonna wait until they reach out. More testing can be done. And then hopefully we'll know. So until then, we just kind of have to sit on our hands and hope for the best. So yeah, it's been that was the start of our weekend. But for here and now, I managed to get that new mic equipment I was talking about. And thank you all for the support. I appreciate it. I really do. And I know she will as well. This is the mixer that I got. I haven't used it yet. I don't even know if it's going to be exactly what I need, but that's the hope. So hoping that this thing will work. I like that it also has a little screen that moves so that when it's like this, I can move it and see the information. Let me just turn that back off. Don't need that on right now. And then this is the mic that I got from Logitech. It's the Blue Sona. It's advanced dual diaphragm dynamic mic. It has ClearAmp active technology inside, which is apparently something new and interesting. So I'm looking forward to cracking this open and seeing how it works. But I'll have to wait until tomorrow. New Yeti. So no, the mic I'm using right now is the Yeti X Pro or Professional, whichever way you want to say it. The Blue Sona is from Logitech. It's from the Blue line, but it's XLR. And this will be my first XLR setup. So I'm hoping I get it right. But that's why I didn't bother trying it for today. Because I wanted to make sure I could, play with it a little bit. Hi, Kay. It's good to see you. The Yeti works well for me. Yeah, and it's been doing okay. Mine started to run into issues, which is why I'm replacing it, upgrading it, hopefully an upgrade. It should be an upgrade. But also for the voice work that I'm getting into, I want to have something that's, well, better than what I have now. So, this is the puzzle that I picked for y'all this evening. It's all about milk. I don't know why, I just liked the puzzle. I liked the picture, and that's why I chose it. Can't stay, I'm sick again. When I missed y'all, I want to say hi. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I hope you feel better soon. I really do. You deserve a break, and I hope you get one. So please take care of yourself. Pretty please. I think they spelled that wrong. Milk should be milk. Yeah, that's unfortunate. All right. Me too. Thank you, Jason. The cough is annoying as hell. Yeah, I bet it is. Coughing sucks. Drink some hot tea if you can. It always helps me. We are on, dare I say, the final chapters for this book. We've got about 50-ish pages. Oh, and also, side note, after we move, I'm thinking about changing my stream time frame to start 1 hour earlier. So instead of 7 Central, 6 Central. And that way, we can potentially get in more reading time. And then on Thursdays when I read in Discord... Oh, there we go. Yawning started. When I read in Discord, I can start an hour earlier in there as well. Because our time in Discord tends to be a bit short also. So, but that's for like towards the end of summer kind of thing, after we've moved in and gotten ourselves settled and whatnot. All right. But in the meantime, thank you all for being here. I appreciate you. Sit back, relax. Chapter 26 of Midnight Black starts on page 249 of the printed copy. This title is, or this chapter title, I should say, is Failure is Not an Option. So here we go. Just had to get one more yawn out of the way. When we return to the newsstand, Norman turns off the engine. If we hadn't arrived when we did, Billy, they would have... It's done, Norman. Go home and indulge in several stiff drinks. We'll meet you back here at 4 a.m. as planned. Not sure why I should feel good about taking a life. But in the case of Hines and Auger, I do. Norman shakes our hands and drives off. Chris and I linger on the corner under the streetlight, and I light a cigarette. Give me one of those. Chris, even though these cigs were free, you never smoked on Europa. I never participated in an execution on Europa either. We stroll down 4th Street, but not a word passes between us. We enter the house as quietly as we can so not to arouse the Energizer Bunny. Let's try to get some sleep before we meet up with Norman again. I feel contaminated and dirty, like I've been wallowing with pigs. I need a hot shower and time to reflect. Me too, Chris. The first thing I do upon entering my apartment is to get myself a shot of booze, which turns into a second one, followed by a hot, steaming shower. Not for a second do I regret what happened to the Joy Boys. My only regret is Chernov wasn't there to have joined them in the cold waters of the St. Charles River. At 3:50 a.m., Chris and I are pacing under the streetlight by the newsstand again. Did you get any sleep, Chris? No. You? Not much. Billy, old friend, it would be nice to know where we're going and why. Before I can respond, 6 male streetwalkers are headed our way. More than a couple out here qualifies as a gang and should be treated as a threat. Hand on your gun, Chris. They're coming directly towards us. As they get closer, they spot our badges in our hands resting on our weapons. Pretending they never saw us, they cross the street, disappearing into the dark shadows of a cold night. Norman arrives. Someone is with him. I assume it's Jason. Chris goes around to the street side and slips into the back. I slide in from the curbside and close the door. Good evening, gentlemen. I chuckle low. It's early morning, Norman. I could use more sleep. Is that a complaint I hear? That voice. Are my ears deceiving me? Hank? In the flesh. What are you doing here? What? You think you're special or something? Oliver recruited me months ago. You two are latecomers to the game. You never said a word. You could have at least... That day in the car, when I showed you that slip of paper, I almost did tell you. Jesus, Hank. You're the office mole? Hank doesn't answer me. Hank, answer my question. What was your question again? Stop playing games. You're the office mole. Not me, man. Not me. By the way, Norman told me about Gustav and Victor's fate. My only regret is I wasn't there to see the look on their faces when you guys showed up. That must have been one hell of an indoctrination for you, Chris. Yeah, Hank. One I hope to never repeat. Norman catches I-93 North, crosses Boston Harbor, and turns southwest on Edwin H. Land Boulevard, then west on Main Street, southwest on Vassar? Vassar. We're going to go with Vassar. Past the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, then right on Massachusetts Avenue. At the corner of Massachusetts and Albany Street, he slows and glides up a wide driveway on our right, stopping at a high double-wide metal gate attached to a cement block wall that surrounds a large compound. He flashes his headlight 3 times, pauses for a second, then flashes them twice more. The gates begin to slowly swing inward. We move forward into a dimly lit parking lot. 3 vehicles are parked in front of a large 2-story building. The first and second floor windows are boarded over and painted the same off-white as the building. What is this place, Norman? It was a local TV station, Billy. The government took it over and turned it into a regional relay station that covers all of the East Coast. In the center of the first floor are solid double steel doors. In a grassy area off to the right of the building are 3 satellite dishes, 1 large and 2 smaller ones. Norman knocks on the steering wheel twice. Okay, gentlemen, it's game on. We follow him to the steel door where he presses a wall-mounted buzzer on the wall next to the right door. A few seconds later, a slot in the door slides open and a pair of eyes peer out. The slot closes and we hear several security bolts being released before the door swings open. None other than Norman's partner in crime, Jason, greets us. Gentlemen, come in. Jason closes and bolts the door, and Norman makes the introductions. Jason, you know Hank and Billy. This gentleman is Chris Henley. Welcome, Chris. Glad you could join us. Follow me, gentlemen. Jason leads us down a semi-dark hallway. We pass several empty offices on either side to a double-wide, high-ceiling hallway that goes left and right. To the right, the hall dead ends at an overhead garage door. Jason turns left to the double doors that are the same height and width as the hallway. He swings open the door to the right and we enter a room the size of a basketball court. The front and left walls are wrapped in an L-shaped white silichroma. A table laden with refreshment runs along the left side of the psych, I think. CYC. An overhead lighting grid with a few lights still hanging illuminate the space. At one time, this had to have been a production studio. A large television monitor is mounted on 2 stands several feet in front of the psych. The screen is filled with a photo of Henry Dion, and facing the TV are a dozen or more folding chairs. What's with the chairs and food, Norman? Movie night? Mr. Neville will explain, Billy. That's what you always say, Norman. Oliver appears from a door in the back with two other men. He spots us, and he and one of the men come over to us. Gentlemen, good morning. Is it, Oliver? Trust me, Billy, it will be. May I introduce Brian Adams, the facilities engineer? Brian is middle-aged, tall with receding brown hair and a pleasant smile. Brian, these are our friends Billy, Chris, and Hank. I'm sure they have many questions concerning the role they'll play here today. Take them up to the engineering room and show them how this will work. Grab some coffee and food if you like, gentlemen, and we'll chat more when you return. Oliver motions for me to wait. Stunt Papa. Hi there. It's good to see you, sir. How are you? Playing a little Helldivers tonight, perhaps? A little pew-pew? Oliver motions for me to wait while Hank, Chris, and Norman move to the refreshment table. Not too bad, how are you? I'm doing my best. And Miss Sloth, hello. Welcome back. I am doing my best, but I have new microphone equipment that I'll be using hopefully next week, or later this week. I'm not playing Helldivers right now. I lost my voice this weekend, and you need to talk in Helldivers. Yeah, that's true. You do. You definitely do. Yeah, I noticed last time we played, your voice was definitely starting to go. And I guess now it's officially gone. Is Stunt Mama giving you all kinds of jokes and appreciation of a lost voice? She'll be back in a day or two? Alright. And you're welcome, Miss Sloth. It's great to see you. She's taking care of me nicely? Oh, that's good. Well, don't mind me. We have plenty of book tonight, and my plans are to finish this book, because on Thursday, I hope to not only have a new microphone, but also to start this book. So, Thursday is going to be a fun one. Gonna lurk and listen? Yeah. No, enjoy your farm and whatnot. That's right, Mitchell. Woo. Let's see. Top of page 253. I'm left to wonder my fate if you hadn't arrived when you did. For that, I will be forever in your debt. I was afraid we'd be too late, Oliver. 10 minutes more and you would have. Norman informed me of how Hines and Augur were dispatched. There's nothing to be gained by sharing that with anyone here. I understand. Taking my hand, he shakes it vigorously. When this is over, Billy, I owe you one. If we all survive whatever is about to happen, we will be victorious. Now, help yourself to breakfast. We'll talk when you return. He smiles, shakes my hand again, and strolls across the room, rejoining the other man he had been speaking with. The refreshment table is loaded from one end to the other with juices, coffee, bagels, croissants, and fresh-cut fruits. Expecting a big crowd, Brian? Yes, others will be joining us. I grab a coffee and off we go with Brian out of the studio and down a dimly lit hallway to an elevator that takes us to the second floor. When the doors slide open, we come face to face with a steel door 4 steps in front of us. Brian unlocks it and we enter a cold, brightly lit room, as bright as Donald P. Costigan's white on white office. 6 metal racks line the left wall, filled with monitors and blinking electronic equipment. Brian stops at the 3rd rack. First, a bit of background to clarify what the plan was and how it has changed. Mr. Dion was to deliver his message live from the studio below. Thankfully, he recorded his presentation in case something went wrong, which it tragically did. Now it's up to us to ensure his message is broadcast to the world. Sounds complicated and risky. Not as difficult as you might think, Hank. Relay stations like this one are automated and require but a single engineer to keep them humming along. At this facility, it's yours truly. Programming from all commercial sources is first beamed to Menwith Station in England, then to government-controlled broadcast satellites that download approved content to regional relay stations like this one throughout the world. Listening while I put the kiddos to bed? Perfect. I hope they can hear, though. Might not be kid appropriate. And by might not, I mean it's not. Why the extra steps? Government censors scrutinize all content region by region before any programming is allowed to be broadcast. Everything? Everything down to the commercials, Chris. How about the local newscasts? They're usually live. No worries. I always use headphones. It's for my enjoyment. Ah, perfect. Perfect. Good call. They are restricted to 30 minutes at 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. in the different time zones around the world. Network news in each country is allowed 1 hour following the nightly local news. The only international news comes from the government channel, which, as you know, is 24/7. They know the rules and follow them if they want to continue broadcasting. And how do you plan to send Dion's message? I didn't get a pedigree in broadcast engineering just to play mechanic to a bunch of blinking electronic lights, Billy. With a couple of twists of a Phillips screwdriver, Brian removes a blank faceplate in the middle of the third rack, exposing a square gray box with a small lock attached to an eye loop at the bottom. On its cover is stenciled, "Caution, electrical box." A yellow wire runs out the lower left side and disappears behind the rack. Brian unlocks the box and raises the cover. What do we have here? A laptop computer with the HP logo on its cover is mounted flat against the back of the box. Running out of the left side is that same yellow wire. I wired this computer directly to the large satellite. Come on, Brian, it can't be that simple. Oh, but it is, Billy. Brian snakes a hand around the left side of the box and retrieves a white box no bigger than a bar of soap and opens it. Inside is a single UBS stick. I think that's meant to be USB. He holds it up. This contains Mr. Dion's recorded message. I copied it to this computer. So, you know what's on it? I do, Billy. Oliver described it as a Black Swan event. Does it live up to that? Per Oliver's instructions, I'm not at liberty to reveal its contents. Everyone will see and hear it together when it's broadcast. Nice try, Billy boy, but as a loyal soldier as Brian is, he's not about to clue us in. Menwith's control room is manned 24/7 by 3 rotating teams of 3 engineers. They are the only ones allowed inside, other than a security team of 2 that comes around 5 minutes past each hour to ensure all is running smoothly. This morning at 8:50 our time, 2 security officers will enter the control room, along with engineers on duty, all members of Voltaface. They will secure the door from the inside. When the real security guy shows up, it'll be too late. By then, we'll be on the air. At 8:59:59, Menwith's primary and backup satellite will be cut and replaced with the signal will beam to them from here. That's the good news. The bad news is, there's no way to test this without being discovered. Since we only have one shot, I've scrutinized every detail 1,000 times. I don't understand. Wouldn't it have been simpler to provide you people to provide your people at Menwith with the thumb drive? A reasonable question, Billy. But security at Menwith is tight as a drum. It would have never gotten through the door. The question is, can we stay on the air for 12 minutes, the length of Mr. Dion's speech, without this facility or Menwith's control room being breached? If either was to happen, the you-know-what hits the fan, and it's game over. My mind's eye is flashing unsettling images of the firefight that would take place in this facility, or if this facility is pinpointed and breached before the broadcast is over. How would we hold off a full-on attack? What are the odds of either or both of those scenarios happening? Menwith's control room is a bunker that can withstand a nuclear attack. The door alone is several inches of solid steel. The chances of anyone getting in once it's locked from the inside is near impossible. Well, that leaves this place. There is the possibility they'll pinpoint our signal. Sounds like we volunteered for a possible suicide mission. It's the only chance we have, Hank, and we're taking it. I can think of 100 more questions, none of which I'll ask. The caper either works or it doesn't. It's a Hail Mary, if there ever was one. Brian replaces the flash drive in the box and returns it to its hiding place, then screws on the rack faceplate. Norman, give me a hand. Brian and Norman disappear around the back of the racks. When they emerge, they each carry 3 AR-15 rifles with 100-round drum magazines attached. There's an additional magazine for each weapon. Let's hope we don't need them. Okay, gentlemen. That's it for now. We'll stash our weapons in the hall closet downstairs until we return. I look at Chris. His brow furrows, and he rolls his eyes. Billy, my friend, remind me to thank you for getting me into this. As soon as the elevator reaches the first floor and the doors open, we hear a cacophony of voices coming from the studio. Chris whistles low. Well now, sounds like the office party has begun without us. In the hallway, we place our weapons inside a closet and head for the studio, which was all but empty when we arrived. To our surprise, it's now populated by a dozen or more people milling about. Norman, who are all these people? Mr. Neville will explain, Billy. I'm left to wonder what role this group is here to play. Hell, I'm not sure what ours will be if this place is invaded. Oliver is standing by the refreshment table. He spots us and heads in our direction, accompanied by the man he was speaking with when we arrived. I trust Brian brought you up to speed. He double brought us up to speed, Oliver. Good, Billy, good. May I introduce Joe Natalie? Natalie, I've heard that name before. He's bald and stocky with a round, likable, friendly face. Your name is familiar, Mr. Natalie. Well, until last night, it was Gerald Joseph Natalie, commander of the North American Caribbean World Government Forces. Today, it's just plain Joe Natalie. Whoa, what? Marseille's top dog in the region is involved with the movement? The plot thickens. Oliver motions to the others. I dare say you would find the pedigree of the men and women gathered here quite impressive. There are 2 of Henry Dion's World Council colleagues, a Harvard constitutional scholar, a United States Supreme Court justice, ambassadors to the US from England, Germany, and Brazil, as well as former directors of the CIA, NSA, FBI, Interpol, and the BND. Oh my god. Let's see if I can say this 28 character word without messing up. What? Spell check must have had a knip shit with this. Bundesna cry contend. Bundesta cry tendendiest for extraterrestrial services. What? And the German equivalent to the CIA. All had a hand in assisting Henry in the creation of Voltaface. Force a hydrate, that's a great idea. I need to take a pill. The temperature here today, or the weather I should say, has been very strange. It's been warm, but breezy, but yet so muggy. So we've had the air on and fans on, and it's messing with my sinuses. It's very annoying. Yay. Thank you. That was a great idea, Mitchell. I appreciate it. This word, it's insane. Bundesna cry, Bundesna Church tendiest. Bundesta Church tendiest. I can't even, I have no idea what I'm saying. Anyway, I'm going to type it out actually, because I want you guys to see what this word is. We are taking a break. I'm going to see if I can get this right. Wait. There you go. That's the word. Bundesnachricht tendienst. Say that one time fast. Never mind 10 times. Yeah, you and me both. That's a mouthful. All right. Hank and Chris look as perplexed as I do. Probably a winning word in a spelling bee. No kidding. I had no idea. Billy, is it? Yes, General, Natalie, Billy Russell. Well, Billy. Some might not think so, but the goal of the military has always been first and foremost to keep the peace. The military doesn't start wars, civilians who run governments do. So when the Populist Party morphed into a world political force, I liked their ideas and supported them, as did most of all who wore the uniform. The very idea the PPP would control military forces and ban nuclear weapons was the first sensible idea for ending wars. Little did any of us suspect that Marseille government's true intentions of becoming selfish, oppressive, fascist dictators. Once they controlled the military, nothing was standing in their way of achieving their goal of complete world domination. That's when they damn well lost my support. Oliver glances at the gathering for a moment before turning back to us. It is worth remembering that in 1878, Albert Einstein said, "The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything." Today, we the people take the steps that we should have long ago to promote and save democracy for all mankind. Today we will reignite a world where intellect and science lead the way to a better future. Thanks to Henry Dion, today we take back the freedom that has been stolen from us. I can't help worrying if government forces were to breach this place before we pull this off. All would have been for naught. I posed that possibility to Neville. Oliver, what happens if this all goes wrong and they storm the place? General, would you like to answer? Oh, happy to, Oliver. As soon as we're on the air, General Courtier will order the military to stand down. General Courtier? Yes, Hank. The very same General Courtier that commands the world military forces. Wow. Is there anyone who's not involved in this? Before this is over, you'll learn just how committed the world is to removing these devils. Oliver, these people gathered here. What role are they here to play? You'll learn that following Henry's presentation, Billy. Now, please help yourselves to the refreshments. I was hoping Oliver had shared at least something, anything that would give us confidence that what's recorded on that thumb drive will succeed in bringing about an uprising on the scale he promises. It damn well better, or we'll all be burnt toast. There's quite a spread on the refreshment table. I settle for a cup of black brew and a sesame bagel smeared with cream cheese. Chris settles for a cup of coffee. Hank's chewing on a croissant, looking over my shoulder and smiling. What are you smiling at? Turn around and see for yourself. I turn and come face to face with Jade. Be careful, don't choke on that bagel, buckaroo. Okay, it was no surprise Jade's in on it, we all knew that. For one of the rare moments in my life, I'm at a total loss for words. Jade. So good to see you, Billy. Hey, Hank, Chris. How are you doing, beautiful? Anxious to see this over and done with, Hank. Will one of you please tell me what's going on? Hank pats me on the shoulder and grins. Best to ask the lady, Billy. Jade glances to her left, then to her right. Not here. Let's find a quiet spot. But, no buts, buckaroo. Follow me. Placing my coffee and bagel on the table, I follow her behind the mounted television screen out of sight of the others. You are the last person I expected to see here. Why's that, Billy? Because I just never suspected that you too were involved. Well then, my cover worked. It takes a millisecond for my brain to connect the dots. Oh, it's you, not Hank. You're Neville's mole. Her face scrunches. Jeez, Billy, you make it sound like I committed a felony. Sorry, that came out wrong. I sure hope so. Hank knows about this? Yes. And you didn't tell me. If you hadn't taken your sweet time committing to the cause, I would have. So now you're angry with me? No. Then stop sulking. I'm not. Then unscrew that look on your face and I'll tell you what you want to know. I'm just stupefied. Stupefied. Strong word. Okay, here goes. When I was with the Boston PD, I would on occasion spout off about this wretched regime. I was expressing out loud what others were thinking in private. The brass warned me I should hold my tongue unless I was looking to spend time in a women's prison or worse. Chad Cunningham, head of the Boston Detective Division, he's the tall one over there talking with Oliver and Natalie, invited me to lunch one day. Rule number 1. When divorced, never turn down a free lunch. I thought he was hitting on me, but, dumb me, he was scouting me out. He made no bones about his personal feelings. The regime was evil, and they had to go one way or another. I assured him I shared those feelings. He asked if he could introduce me to a man he was involved with, someone who believed what he did, a well-known Boston attorney by the name of Oliver Neville. To make a long story short, Oliver must have felt comfortable with me because he told me right off. He was involved in a group planning to do something about the Marseille gang, but he held back on the details. It was only after I signed on would he tell me that Commissioner Henry Dion was spearheading an underground movement called Voltaface, a term I had never heard before. Your position with our unit, how did that come about? When Marseille announced the creation of the World Drug Enforcement Bureau, Colonel Andrei Chernov, a former officer with the defunct Russian Federal Counterintelligence Service, was placed in command of the New England unit that was to be located here in Boston. Why, Oliver asked, would they send a full-bird colonel to do a captain's job? With Chernov came Boris Tegnev and Ivan Oblansky, and Antonia Lebedev, also former WPF officers who worked under Chernov in Marseille. Both Dion and Oliver suspected something else was going on besides drug enforcement. As it turned out, their suspicions were right on target. And the lieutenant? Frank was a retired Marine who commanded the New Hampshire Police Department and made no bones about his support for the PPP. That made him perfect to head up our office. Then came Hines and Auger, who, like Chernov, held top security positions in Marseille. They sealed it for Henry and Oliver. Something was going on with this unit beyond drug control, and they wanted to know what it was. When Oliver found out the unit had an opening for an administrative assistant with police experience, he suggested I apply on the outside chance the movement could, get someone on the inside to nose around. Hey, super. Wilson was impressed with my credentials and a psychiatrist. I was hired. Oliver now had someone on the inside. It wasn't long before we discovered Chernov's real job was getting rid of dissidents using the talents of his attack dogs, Hines and Auger. Once I discovered the unit's real mission, I regretted signing on. But by then it was too late to get out. And where do Hank, Chris, and I fit in? You can thank Oliver for that, because on your background. As for Marseille, they must have gotten wind something was imminent. Why else would Hines and Auger assassinate Dion and pay Oliver a late-night visit? You know about the visit to Oliver? Oliver filled me in. What I still don't understand is how. If this movement is as big as it is, how has it been kept under wraps? Amazing what people can do when their ultimate freedom is at stake. How can I be angry at her for keeping me out of the loop? She's placed herself in the mouth of the lion and stood tall for her beliefs and her principles, knowing that if discovered, she would have paid with her life. So, here we are, a band of would-be heroes attempting to overthrow an entrenched government that could easily squash us in a millisecond. And that, boys and girls, remains a real possibility. Keep the faith, buckaroo. At 7:16, the tension in the studio is at a fever pitch. Especially those of us armed with AR-15s, hoping like hell we don't have to use them. While Jade mingles with Oliver and the two other ladies, I take the opportunity to speak with several of those in attendance whose credentials not only impress but inspire. The former U.S. Supreme Court Justice, the lady philosophy professor who still teaches the subject at Pennsylvania University, two former World Council commissioners who secretly supported Dion's efforts, and former General Joseph Natali, who I get another chance to speak with. This whole time I was saying Natalie before, but it definitely is Natali. General Natali, please, call me Joe. Mind if I ask you why you supported the idea of a world government? Like millions of others, Billy, I thought the idea of a world government, as radical as it sounded at the time, could be the answer to restoring balance and lasting peace across the planet. As it turned out, we were wrong. Within a year of taking over, the devils running the PPP were stuffing their pockets with the spoils at the expense of the less fortunate. Hate groups and white nationalists were on the rise, along with enough conspiracy theories to fill a small book, and the government was openly supporting them. There was one lingering problem that had to be addressed: overpopulation. Some 9 billion plus humans were roaming the planet. The government had to bring it under control if they were to achieve its goal of complete domination over people, the world economy, and Mother Nature's limited assets. So their solution was to force feed a series of complex economic policies meant to fail. I've heard this before, but it doesn't make sense. It would hurt them too. It makes perfect sense when you consider overpopulation continues to add pollution to an already polluted planet, whose natural resources are being exhausted faster than they can replenish them. Overpopulation. Then there's the problem of widespread drug use. Marseille will never be able to achieve its goal of total economic domination if the drug problem continues to escalate. You can't rage and pillage what's not there. Marseille's solution was to crash the economy.
Drink!
I will drink. It's so demanding. Cheers. So good. Lost my place. Minorities and the poor, out of work and on the streets, without the government being accused of causing the death of millions. But it's backfired. And the drug use is up. Next time you're out, take note. The streetwalkers are mostly brown, black, yellow, and poor whites. The PPP is reorganizing society by systematically removing a swath of those they deem as disposable. But Joe, everyone is suffering. Not just the working and the poor. Complicated, isn't it? The only way to turn this ship around is to shut down these thieving crooks and liars for good. Let's hope the hell you're right, General. If this doesn't work as planned, we're all off to one of those internment camps, or worse, a firing squad. That's if we make it out of this building alive. At 8 a.m., Oliver is standing in front of the TV screen calling for everyone to take their seats. He looks tired and more than a little apprehensive. First, I thank each of you for your willingness to place yourselves in harm's way. All mankind owes you a debt of gratitude. Now, at 8:30, Voltaface regional directors around the world will receive the green light. The event is a go as planned. In turn, they will instruct millions upon millions of Voltaface supporters to tune into the government news channel at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, when the world will learn just how far the PPP is willing to go to ensure their domination now and in the future. Hopefully, we'll witness the largest uprising the human race has ever experienced. If there is one lesson we have learned, to preserve freedom, to protect democracy, we have to continually work at it. There is an old but appropriate Italian saying: "You wanted a bicycle, you got one. Now you have to pedal." How many chapters do we have left? We're on 26, and it goes to 29. And the goal is to finish it tonight. That's my hope. We'll see how far we get. Right. Today, we pedal and pedal hard to bring this oppressive regime to an end. Not out of fear, but with courage and conviction that what we do this day will free all humanity. These are the factions out there that will continue to fight. That's a given. But from this day forward, we will squash them whenever and wherever their warped ideologies rise. Oh my goodness, it's Matt and Hades here as well. Hello, friends. Spontaneous applause breaks out. Oliver sounds pretty damn sure that this is going to work. What does he know that we don't? I suspect the answer is what Henry Dion has to say on that recording. Oliver takes a deep breath and continues. At 8:58, make your assigned connections and relay information as you receive it. Does anyone have a question? Hello, hope it's been a quality Sunday. Not too bad, actually. Thank you. Same to you, sir. A distinguished white-haired woman in the fourth row stands. Yes, Gloria. I just want to say, God bless Henry Dion. The room breaks out in resounding applause again. Lastly, but perhaps most importantly, General Andre Coutier, head of the world military, will direct all military and WPF forces to stand down. There will be resistance from within their ranks, from those who support this wretched government. General Coutier assures us they are prepared to quickly shut down resistance to our efforts. That's reassuring, Oliver, but I'd rather have Coutier's faithful troops here defending this place instead of the 6 of us. We'll never be able to hold off an attack from troops loyal to Marseille if it comes to that. Okay, Billy, enough negative thoughts. You're here, and that's that. If there's a fight, remember to shoot straight and shoot to kill. At 8:30, our gang of 6 retrieve our weapons and return to the engineering room. Brian lays out a play-by-play of how this will go down. He's holding up a satellite phone. At precisely 8:59, the control room at Menwith will ping us once on this secure phone. If all is going as planned, 5 seconds later there will be 3 additional pings. That's the final go signal. At 9, I'll press play and Henry's presentation will begin. What if those final 3 pings fail to come? Perish the thought, Hank. Perish the thought. Chris sidles up to me. That's when we do what the wise shepherd did. Chris, if we survive this, you are never to utter that joke again. Good luck with that, pal. The tension in the room is electric as the clock ticks away. No one is talking. At 8:55, Brian has the computer ready to roll Dion's message. There are 4 minutes to go, 4 very long minutes before we're supposed to receive those pings. All eyes are on the clock. Turn away, Billy. Watching that clock won't make it go faster. Closing my eyes, I wait until I hear what we've been waiting for. The satellite phone pings once. I'm holding my breath. 5 long seconds later, the phone pings once, twice, 3 times. Brian throws up his hands. Oh, praise the Lord. Everything feels like it's moving in slow motion except my heart. My pulse is doing double duty. All eyes are on the clock's sweeping hand as it approaches 8:59, 8:58. Brian rolls Dion's message and the screen comes alive. Hallelujah. We're on the air. The late Henry Dion stands tall against a nondescript blue wall. His expression is contemplative. At least, I think it is. Let's hope it's not foreboding. Ooh, and looks like now I get to script the message, so I'm gonna take a sip because my throat's angy. Let's see. I don't know where Henry Dion is from, so he could have any kind of accent. Maybe we give him a pompous sounding British accent? I don't know. Greetings to all the people of the world. My name is Henry Dion. I was born 71 years ago in the state... Oh, he's born in the state of Massachusetts. Okay. He's not British. Never mind. I was hoping you would go for Cockney Street Urchin. Yeah, no. You, over here. My name is Henry Dion. I was born 71 years ago in the state of Massachusetts in the United States of America. Over those many years, I, like most, failed to raise the alarm as nefarious forces of the economic elite and the body politic unashamedly placed their aspirations to enrich themselves at the expense of all the others. It has led to an international... No, not international. Oh, apparently there's an ad. Does anyone not subbed see the ad right now? Because it says there's an ad, but it's usually wrong. Not yet. Okay. If you do, please tell me. I'm ignoring you, Super. Nope. What was that? Aw, Stump Papa. Thank you for the 28-month resub. Thank you very much. Super, just finish your puzzle, alright? I had ads starting. Can't be having that. You did have it. Okay, so some of you had ads and some of you didn't. That's very confusing. You know, we better wait. We only have less than a minute, so I'll sip more tea and then we'll... That way we're safe, you know? Silly ads. Oh, Stunt Papa. Got the new mic. I'm gonna play with it tomorrow and see how I do. Because I've got a mixer to go with it. Alright, the ads should be over. So we'll get back to Mr. Late Dion and his message. It has led to an intentional dismantling of democracy that has left us in the enslaved world we live in today. If not for the mortal sin that we have uncovered, they may have gotten away with it. Despite all the damage this government had already done, it is difficult to imagine that what you are about to witness is happening yet again. Dion pauses and looks away thoughtfully. Come on, Henry, we don't have all day here. Deep within the wildlife refuge of Park, Neutral Regional de Milavaches on Limousin. It's like limousine, but without the... Anyway. Southwest of town of Clermont-Ferrand, France, a high-ranking member of the military, at great risk to himself, recorded the images you are about to see using a hidden mini-camera. Be forewarned, the video is not only difficult to watch, but repulsive and egregious to even imagine something so horrible could be happening once again. The screen dips to black for a couple of heart-pounding seconds before an image appears of two windowless, single-story, four-screen wooden buildings resembling military barracks separated by a narrow dirt road. A tall stand of trees hugs the outer edges of both structures. Two armed sentries in WPF uniforms walk the dirt road between the buildings, and two more are stationed by the entry doors to each building. Whoever is taking the video approaches the building to the left and stops. He must be speaking to the guard there, but there's no audio. The guard says something, then opens the door to the building. The camera swings left as whoever is taking the video enters the building. The interior is dark. The images turn grainy, and the puzzle is completed. Well done. You assembled the milk. Got milk? Now you do. Well done, everybody. Congrats on the puzzle. The video taker is on the move down the center aisle, swaying first to the left and then slowly to the right. There are simultaneous gasps from each of us as what we see. Single beds line either side of the aisle. Each is occupied by young women dressed in identical white nightgowns. As the camera moves slowly down the aisle, Henry Dion begins narrating again. The Marseille government has committed countless sins, but this is their most repulsive. 100 young white women deemed ethically pure are housed here, 50 in each building. All were brought here for the sole purpose of bearing offspring, sired by men chosen by the regime. Chris puts a hand to his mouth and takes a step back. Jesus Christ, is this real? Brian whispers. All too real, Chris. Dion's narration continues. The children born to these women will be taken from them and raised by the government. They will be educated and groomed to become future world leaders who will spread Arianism, first taught by Alexandrian priest Arius, and later adopted and implemented by the Nazis in World War II. As the camera reaches 3/4 of the way down the aisle, a door on the far back wall opens. Light spills out, and a middle-aged man in a military uniform comes out, tightening his belt and buttoning his open shirt. He's followed by a young blonde woman with her head bent forward, her eyes on the floor. She's young, maybe in her early 20s. She's being led from the room by an older woman in a white nurse's uniform. As she passes the man, smiles and whispers something to the young woman. She doesn't respond as she's led to a nearby bed. She lies down, pulls her knees up into a fetal position, and begins to cry. The nurse is comforting her. Another young woman is led into the back room by a different nurse, followed close behind by an older man in a business suit. He exchanges a few words with the military man, and they both smile. The second man enters the room and closes the door. The video goes to black for a beat before Dion is back on the screen. We would do well to remember that in 1925, Adolf Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf, "Everything we admire on this earth today, science and art, technology and inventions, is only the creative product of a few peoples, and originally perhaps one race, the Aryans. On them depends the existence of this whole culture. If they perish, the beauty of this earth will sink into the grave with them." The Third Reich's sinister plan to preserve the master race left behind an ugly legacy. One the current Marseille regime has revived to ensure the white race remains the master over others, not in their numbers, but positions of power. As I speak, a paramilitary squadron is making its way to this camp to liberate these young women. Now, it's our turn. You, me, everyone. Together we will reclaim our birthright to live and prosper in peace and harmony. I leave you with the words of the 18th century French economist Frédéric Bastiat, who wrote, "When plunder becomes a way of life for men, they create for themselves over time a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it." People of Earth, let us not be guilty of ignoring this warning yet again. Rise up without fear, for we are safe within our numbers. Thank you, be safe, and may God bless you all. The screen goes black. Everyone is speechless. What we have just witnessed was unspeakably abhorrent and beyond belief that human beings would do this to other humans yet again. Brian's cell rings. He answers and listens. Yes. Got it. Thanks. He ends the call, but he's not smiling. Natalie wants us in the studio. Is there a problem? No, Billy. So far, so good. Bring your weapons. I was fully expecting the door to this room to be stormed before the video ended. Ye of little faith, Billy boy. When we enter the studio, there is a hush. Like us, everyone's shaken to the core by what they've seen. Oliver is still standing before the TV screen. We still have work to do, so let's get to it. The atmosphere in the room is filled with anticipation as we await whatever is supposed to happen next. Oliver's pacing. As I recall, he likes to pace. Jade, God lover, crosses the studio and stands by me, takes my hand and smiles her warm smile. My heart's pounding. Mine is threatening to explode, Jade. Still angry with me, Buckaroo? If we get out of here, you can make it up with that Chinese dinner you promised. The gathering is dead silent as we wait. 5 long, silent minutes pass when Joseph Natali waves his phone above his head and lets out a loud hoot. I just spoke to General Couture in Marseille. The military has been ordered to stand down and they are following that order. A cheer goes up. Now it's a matter of waiting to see what the world will do. There's dead silence in the studio. Then, excitedly, a woman on the far side of the room with her phone to her ear jumps to her feet. London is reporting thousands streaming into the streets. She's followed by a man in the middle of the group who whoops, Moscow Square is jammed with people. And then, one after another, a chorus of frenzied voices. Traffic in New York is at a standstill. Same in Miami. Chicago reports thousands pouring into the streets. Los Angeles too. This is happening. Their plan is working. I would have never believed if I were not seeing and heard it with my own eyes. Pretoria, South Africa. Ditto, Berlin. Same in Toronto. Sydney, Australia. Beijing. Paris is reporting thousands have jammed the streets. The jubilant voices continue until major populations around the world are accounted for. Toronto, whoop whoop. Good job, Super. Natali is waving his phone again. General Couture reports the government headquarters in Marseille have been invaded by armed citizens after a skirmish with a few die-hard members of the military. Laurent and his gang were nowhere to be found. They must have run like rats in a flood when Dion hit the airwaves. Bagged milk. God bless bagged milk. The cries of joy are suddenly interrupted by a loud crash coming from outside. My head whips to the door. What the hell was that? Brian, the front door. I'm on it, Mr. Natali. Natali quick paces to the center of the room. Listen up, everyone. Follow Oliver behind the cyc. Norman, Jason, post yourselves at each end of it. This can only mean we've been discovered. I squeeze and then release Jade's hand. Go with the others, Jade. Be safe, Billy. When she reaches the cyc, she turns and blows me a kiss. I blow one back. It's so sweet. From his jacket pocket, Natali takes out a pistol. Come on, let's see what the ruckus is about. We follow him down the hall to the front door. Brian is there, peering out the peephole. A second crash is heard. With a look of dread, Brian turns to us. It appears not everyone got the message, Joe. An M1130 armored vehicle with a battering ram just broke through the front gate. A dozen men in riot gear on foot with it. These doors are reinforced steel, but they won't stand up to ramming from that armored vehicle. And our rear door is bricked over. So this is the only way in or out. Come on, Brian, stand back over here with us. Natal is acting pretty cool for what we're about to face. Leaning close to Hank, I hiss, what's Natali's looking so smug about? I'm wondering the same, Billy. It becomes eerily quiet except for the sound of the armored vehicle engine as it moves closer to the doors. We hear it stop. Its engine is idling. What's sweeping through my head are the times as a young DEA officer. I charged headlong into the pit of danger with fearless arrogance. Yet here now I feel helpless, not fearless. My tingling fingers are wrapped tightly around the AR-15. It feels like it weighs 100 pounds. Is this where my role is in the video game of life? If it ends with all the others? Is this that train speeding through the dark tunnel ready to crash like a disease spreading bugs? The sound of the armored vehicle's engine revving up snaps me back. They're closing in on the door, Joe. I hear them, Brian. The vehicle's engine sounds like a roar of a jet engine as it approaches. We hear a burst of gunfire. Ping, ping, ping. Bullets are hitting the metal doors. All of us except Natali take a step back. The gunfire is increasing, and I'd swear it's coming from 2 different directions. General, what's happening? Hold fast, Billy. Natali's moving to the door. He slides open the peephole. He's watching. We wait. Then silence. The gunfire stops as quickly as it had begun. Okay, Brian, unlock this baby. What? Is this a deception? Has Natali betrayed us? Brian hesitates. It's okay, Brian, unlock it. But Joe. Go ahead. Unlock it. Hesitantly, Brian approaches the doors. And pulls back the deadbolts. Sucking in a deep breath, he swings the left door open. A man in a WPF uniform sporting captain bars on his shoulders is standing just a few feet away. We look at Natali. Damn him, he's grinning. John, you are one hell of a welcome sight. What? He could have told us. The captain salutes and smiles. Same here, General. Gentlemen, this is Captain John Crawford. He and his special WPF ops team were stationed in that building across the street just in case something like this were to happen. Damn it, General. With all due respect, did it ever cross your mind to share this information with us? Not for a millisecond, Hank. Good work, Captain Crawford. All in a day's work, sir. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. I'll be in touch, Captain. Until then, pass the word. Keep an eye out for the holdout government loyalists. Will do, sir. I'm more than a little pissed off. I don't know whether we should pat Natalie on the back or kick his ass for not letting us in on his backup plan. He's pointing to the studio. Let's go tell the others it's over. We're about to turn back when we hear loud rumblings coming from the street just outside the busted gates. Natalie moves back to the door and peers. What have we here? Filing out the door behind Natalie, we pass dead men sprawled around the ramming vehicle. Two men are slumped in front of the seat, in the front seat of the vehicle. I can read. As we cross the parking lot, a throng of human bodies begin to fill the gaping hole that was the front gate. The street is jammed with throngs of cheering people. Natalie is whispering to one in particular. If there's a heaven, I know where Henry Dion is. Oliver comes running up behind us with Norman and Jason in tow. He's excited about something. Great news! I was just informed by former United Nations Secretary General Arturo Cordozar. He has taken charge of the government headquarters in Marseilles plant. The long overdue recovery from injustice and suffering begins. I want to share this moment with Jade. Turning back, I spot her standing in the doorway and quick pace across the parking lot. What's on your mind, Buckaroo? This moment in time, the moment that history will enshrine forever, must not be wasted. Sweeping Jade into my arms, I kiss her long and hard. And that was chapter 26. It was quite the extensive chapter, but I can understand why.
Drink!
I am way ahead of you. No worries. I was just closing a tab. I was in Rio's stream, so I rated myself. That actually put us at page 273. So if I do the math, we only have like 20 pages left. Maybe a little less than. Yeah, a little less than 17 pages maybe. Wunderbar. It's always bittersweet when we end a book, but it's always great to see how the book ends too. Alright. Chapter 27 is called Closure and Renewal. Closure and renewal. Well, I think we can all guess why that's called that. Never had a world change of this magnitude taken place with such celerity. Less than an hour after Henry Dion's presentation, the Marseille regime had crumbled like a fragile house of cards. With great courage and conviction, the majority of citizens around the world delivered the coup de grace by taking to the streets in an organized revolt against the radical elites and their fiendishly gained privileges. Wow. Feloniously. Good grief. I know what I'm doing. I can read words. It was a boisterous, unified message to President Laurent and his supporters that domination and oppression would never again be tolerated. Period. Full stop. Repeat. But freedom from opposition was only the beginning. As expected, there was high anxiety about what was to come next. No more than any time in the history of mankind, it was paramount that people across the globe be reassured their world had not gone from one fire into the frying pan. That reassurance would begin at 3 that afternoon when former Secretary General of the United Nations, Arturo Cordozar, would make a televised address to the world. Like everyone, I was drained mentally, exhausted physically, and anxious to get home. But the streets of Boston were clogged with revelers, making it impossible to maneuver in a vehicle. It was 12:30 before Norman was finally able to give me, Chris, and Hank a lift home. Jade stayed behind, huddled with Oliver, Joseph, Natalie, and others, no doubt discussing plans already in place to take this victory to the next level. As we're cruising down 4th Street, we find it still crowded like all the other streets. It resembles a 4th of July celebration. When we finally reach the house, Hank twists in his seat and flashes a devilish grin. Well, boys and girls, it's been one hell of an interesting day. Let's catch up with one another somewhere in the aftermath. I pat Hank on the shoulder. Wherever the hell that's gonna be. Hey, Norman, don't think this hasn't been a blast, because it has. That's not exactly how I would describe it, Billy, but all's well that ends well. There's handshakes all around, and Chris and I slip out. Uncle Jules is standing at the top of the stairs, grinning from ear to ear. Where have you two been? Cooped up in the office, waiting for the streets to clear. It appears there's been a revolution of sorts. Jules laughs, his belly jiggles, and his keychain jangles. Thank God for small favors. Oh, so now you've found religion. Just covering all the bases, Billy. Catch you later, Mr. Russell, Mr. Summers. Later, Mr. Russell, Mr. Henley. When Chris and I make it to our doors, we stand silently for a moment. He shakes my hand. It was fate that first brought us together on that evil planet, Billy. And it was fate that brought us together here. Friends forever. As long as you promise never to tell that damn shepherd joke again. He laughs and enters his apartment. Once I'm in my place, I head straight for the bourbon and down a shot. Then it's off to a hot soaking in the shower that lasts 10 minutes. After putting on clean clothes, I turn on the government news channel. Patriotic music is playing over video footage of millions around the world celebrating in the streets. I'm contemplating some lunch when there comes a knock at the door, and I assume it's Chris or Jules. It's unlocked. To my surprise, in walks the ever-lovely Jade Miro carrying a white paper bag. Hey, gorgeous. Thought you stayed behind with Oliver and company. She smiles wide and raises the bag. What I miss? It took them a long time to get home, but now that they're home, that's about it. Oh, and Jade just arrived. The Chinese we never got around to having. She's moving toward me. Those long, lovely legs float across the room like they're walking on air. She sets the food on the table and kisses me. Any discussion of the past 12 or so hours are strictly verboten. I make a motion we partake in this savory Chinese food and move on to you-know-what. Then, set the table, big boy. Arturo Cordozar's address comes on at 3. Anything going on with Oliver that I should know about? No, it's all up to Cordozar and his team now. Setting out 2 plates, silverware, and napkins, we dig into the food. Lunch is immediately followed by a XXX rated roll in the sack. We're like 2 kids in a candy store overwhelmed at the variety of goodies available to us. Our gymnastics continue until shortly before it's time for Cordozar's broadcast. We move to the living room, me in my underwear, Jade in one of my shirts. At 3 minutes to 3, I turn on the TV. A tranquil nature scene fills the screen. A text graphic is superimposed at the top of the screen. At 3 p.m. Eastern, former United Nations Secretary General Arturo Cordozar will address the world live from Marseille, France. His address will be repeated hourly on this channel. The background video switches to scenes of the millions upon millions who had taken to the streets in the largest peaceful protest in recorded history. It is an incredible sight to behold, one that we hope will never again give us cause to repeat. New music begins, and the Chiron text at the bottom of the screen identifies it as "We Are the World," sung by someone named Michael Jackson. Not familiar with the singer or the song, but the lyrics couldn't be more appropriate and uplifting. Mankind had defeated the evil empire. Except for the fight outside the relay station and some of Laurent's diehards at government headquarters in Marseille, the entire uprising went off without a single citizen injured, which would have been impossible if the military and the WPF had not obeyed Couture's stand-down order. At precisely 3, the music concludes and the screen dissolves to Arturo Cordozar sitting behind a large wooden desk. His name appears at the bottom of the screen. Marseille's Palatial Museum de Histoire Naturelle de Marseille is superimposed behind him. I don't know anything about this guy, Jade. Cordozar was Spain's ambassador to the United Nations before he was chosen as the United States Secretary General. Under the PPP, the UN was not much more than a puppet organization. 8 months ago, Cordozar resigned. Lucky for us, Marseille didn't have him arrested. Cordozar folds his hands and places them on the desk. Greetings to all the citizens of the world. Today we celebrate our triumph over the men who have held the world in bondage. The courage and conviction that transpired this momentous day occurred with lightning speed because of the heroic efforts of Commissioner Henry Dion and the millions upon millions who found the courage to come together with a unified voice condemning tyranny. If there is a lesson to be learned from this painful period, is that we must demand future leaders place the highest value on truth, opportunity, and equality, and apply to all mankind regardless of race, color, creed, or economic standing. Without the highest respect for these values, we are nothing more than a nomadic civilization akin to our earliest cave-dwelling ancestors. I have been asked to hold the temporary position of World Administrator, and I am honored. No doubt there will be many challenges ahead, but unified, we can and will meet them head-on. Over the past year, a volte-face committee of volunteers drafted a plan of renewal that is to be enacted immediately following a worldwide vote to ratify it. To begin the process, 3 distinguished scientists, academics, and religious leaders from each of the 6 continents will serve in temporary positions on newly established World Council. The Council is the quickest mechanism and fairest way to ensure that all voices across the globe are heard equally. The task ahead will begin with our most urgent needs. All countries with food storage depositories will release their stores to food distribution outlets throughout the world. Hospitals, medical centers, and drug rehabilitation facilities are open to all seeking assistance. Housing will be assigned to the homeless as it becomes available, and a return to common sense economic policies will begin to repair the world's failing economy. 1 month from now, a world referendum will be held to determine whether a world government will be retained or sovereign nations are to return to self-governing. Until then, General André Couture will continue as commander of world military forces and the world military police. Finally, and sadly, we stand on the cliff of a climate disaster that has been ignored to the point of no return. This is a priority if we have any chance of saving our planet for current and future generations. In closing, let me remind everyone that we must never allow ourselves to forget for even a moment all that we are capable of accomplishing if we work together as one for the good of all. I promise to keep you informed as we work our way back to a healthy, safe, and prosperous society. I promise you, those responsible for perpetrating this travesty upon society will be found and charged with their crimes. Thank you. I bid everyone peace and safety. The screen changes to a striking sunrise over a vast body of water, and the song "We Are the World" is repeated. He hit all the bullet points that were needed. The question is, can we pull it off? You have doubts, Billy? Trust me. As factions grapple for control like they always do, it'll be a political warfare all over again. Not this time. Yeah, well, we'll see. My father was fond of saying there's right, there's wrong, and there's negotiated compromise, which inevitably leads to watered-down solutions to appease the negotiators. Money, power, and politics? That's what has always been the engine that makes the world tick, and I don't expect it will change anytime soon. You'll see, Billy. This time it will be different. This time it will work. I would like nothing better, Jade. But keep in mind, mankind has always existed in 3 worlds. Those at the top, those in the middle, and those at the bottom. The billionaire doesn't embrace the millionaire as a co-equal. The millionaire doesn't embrace the middle class as equals. And the middle class... Hello, excuse me. And the middle class doesn't embrace the poor as equals. Like it or not, that's the way it's always been. So this time, if we fail to address and resolve these issues, what took place today will have been an exercise in futility. And don't for a second believe the factions that supported Laurent's government have magically disappeared. Their odious dogma will rise again and will be forced to deal with it again. Don't be negative, Billy. It doesn't become you. Where I've been for the past 17 years, Jade, negativity was an attribute. Well, you're not there anymore, Buckaroo. Sauntering to the window, I gaze out. A large crowd of revelers lingers on the street below. Do they understand what has taken place, or are they living in the moment, joyful to be free again, but unsure or incapable of comprehending how what just occurred affects the whole, and not just their tiny corner of the world? Can we, will we, come together for the benefit of all mankind? Or in time will we revert to our old tribal ways? Life is filled with boundaries, most of which we chose to ignore. We lie, cheat, steal, we're greedy and selfish, and we're the only mammals in the animal kingdom that murder each other in large numbers in our never-ending wars. Mankind is an endangered species. We just haven't accepted it yet. Can we, will we choose promise over hostility, faith over fear, empathy and understanding over confrontation? It can only happen if we stop taking 3 steps forward and 1 back every time we hit a speed bump in the road. Hey, Billy, where are you? Huh? Right here, beautiful. It's now or never, Billy boy. Don't let this moment that you thought would never come your way again slip from your grasp. Take a deep breath and do it now. I once told you, say what you mean and mean what you say. I remember it well, Billy. Well, that applies to me as well. So here goes. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Jade. If you think I'm going to make this easy on you, you are mistaken. Down on one knee and do it right, buckaroo. Across the room, kneel on one knee and take her hand in mine. Jade, Miro, I, William Evan Russell, love you and want to marry you. And I, Jade Amaya Miro, accept your proposal. That was easy. Damn it, her phone's ringing in the middle of my proposal. Hold that thought, buckaroo. She's answering the phone when the man's proposing. I mean, come on. She digs the phone out from her purse and answers. Hi, what's up? As she listens, I see her face tighten. Really? I don't know why that surprises me, but it does. Okay. Thanks for calling and filling me in. She hangs up. She looks disturbed. What's wrong? That was Norman. General Couture directed drug enforcement units to be shut down and those who commanded them arrested. Wilson, Boris, Ivan, and Antonia have already been taken into custody. And sure enough, that's what surprised me. They found him in his apartment, dead of a shungot wound to the head. He committed suicide. A coward to the end. And we've saved them the trouble of tracking down Hines and Auger. Are they going to arrest us too? I didn't kill anyone, and neither did you, Billy. Yeah, well, Hank did. Don't get ahead of yourself. It'll be fine. On day one following the revolution, Hank comes by for me and Chris, and the three of us pay a visit to the South Boston Community Health Center to have our GPS trackers removed. We celebrate by feasting on fish tacos and tequila at Loco Taqueria and Oyster Bar on Broadway with way too much tequila. I don't know about you two, but I feel like a heavy weight has been lifted. Oh, me too, Billy. The only question now is who's sober enough to drive us home. Hank, it's your car. Oh, yeah, right. Just one more shot before we go. That's a smart idea. A little break in the story. Things were moving fast, and although there was great joy and celebration across the world, it was overshadowed by mankind's greatest enemy, fear. We had won the battle, but would we, win the war? We have no one to blame but ourselves if we failed again, since the bugs and animals don't get a vote. Each day at 6 p.m., Arturo Cordozar took to the airwaves to update the world on the progress being made. On the fourth day, and with great fanfare, Cordozar announced the Cape Town South African police had arrested former President Jean Lumiere Laurent. He and his cronies had arrived there on phony passports. Arrangements were being made to return them to Marseille to face charges. The temporary World Council proposed a Nuremberg-type tribunal that would charge them with crimes against humanity. Then came the day we were dreading. The four of us, me, Jade, Hank, Chris, were in a courtroom facing a judge. Oliver represented us. He assured us it was a formality and no charges would be brought against us. For the record, he elucidates to the judge in great detail how each of us had been enlisted by Volteface, and in the course of playing our roles, were forced to participate in the unit's heinous activities under threat of incarceration or death. Following Oliver's presentation, the judge said he had considered all the circumstances that had forced us into our positions of servitude. He also took into consideration how we had risked our lives participating in the overthrow of the regime. Then came the words we had hoped for. He ordered us cleared of all charges. We were free to get on with our lives without further fear of prosecution. As promised, a month following the fall of the world government, a worldwide referendum took place to determine if that type of governing was to be retained. The answer was an 85% resounding yes, but only if the world government was to retain control of the military, ensuring no country would ever again have the capacity to engage in a war, and the nuclear ban was to remain in force. The world government would also act as the arbiter in all disputes arising between countries. The WPF was to be disbanded, and local police forces reactivated. Finally, every citizen on the face of the earth would participate in the election of new world government officials. The world was pretty much back to normal. Only time will tell if it all works as we hoped it will. Early one morning, while working on the notes of my time on Europa, I received a call from Norman. Would I be available to join Chris, Jade, and Hank for lunch with Oliver the following day in his condo? Yeah, sure. What's it about, Norman? Mr. Neville will explain. Yes, Norman, you always say that. He laughed and hung up, leaving me wondering what might be on Oliver's mind this time. The following day, Hank came by for Chris and me, and we were off to Oliver's. When we arrived, Jade and Joseph Natali were already there. We assumed it was to be a celebratory lunch, a way of thanking us for our support and participation. A lady Oliver introduced as his housekeeper, June, was in the process of setting the table with bangers and mash, onion gravy, steamed broccoli, and oven-baked crescent rolls. Very British indeed. Following lunch, we gathered in the living room. Turning pensive, Oliver meandered to the window, lingering there for several moments. I see the wheels turning, Oliver. Yes, Billy, they are. To fully restore the damage done by Laurent and his supporters will not be accomplished in a week, a month, or even a year. It will take time to educate the public that we have entered a new era, one that demands to make basic structural changes to society, changes not to be feared but to be embraced for the good of all mankind. One of our ongoing challenges will be to bring the drug problem under control. It is destructive not only to the addicted, but to society as a whole. These damn drug lords are too well entrenched, and the local police departments are ill-equipped for the task. So, with that in mind, the World Council is reactivating the drug enforcement units. Using different tactics, one hopes. Yes, Hank, of course. I'm pleased to announce that General Joe Natali will not only assume the role of director of the U.S. drug enforcement operations, but will assist other countries in setting up their programs. He'll be operating from your old offices. Oh, congratulations, General. Thank you, Billy. Oliver hesitates. His eyes go to each of us individually. I'm offering you the opportunity to join him. Us? What role would we play? Hear me out, Chris. Along with Billy's training as a DEA officer, the four of you would be a great asset to Joe's team. Hank, Chris, and I exchange glances. The 3 drug enforcement units in the US will be manned by trained SWAT teams that will conduct all field operations. The fate of those involved in illicit drug production and distribution will be decided by a court of law, not an execution squad. Total silence. I look to Hank and then to Chris. None of us know how to react. Are you guys ready for desk jobs? We exchange. Considering we're all presently unemployed, we're not only surprised but grateful. A smile crosses Oliver's lips. Okay then, I'll take your silence as a yes. Tea, anyone? 5 days later, we're gainfully employed, busily setting up shop in our old offices. Jade, appointed administrative director, took up residence in Wilson's office, and Hank, me, and Chris are at our old desks. We turned the infamous interrogation room into a record storage area. Natali and his 2 new administrative assistants have taken over Chernov's offices. The commander of the newly created New England Drug Enforcement now occupies the old WPF space down the hall. And that concludes Chapter 27. Doing an excellent job of sliding down my seat. Easy when you get comfortable.
Drink! 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 Drink!
I'm on it. I'm on it. We're at 284. Not many pages left. We're on chapter 28. There is reason to hope. The room is pitch black. My eyes strain to see through the fog of sleep. There's a warm body lying beside me. Come on, Billy, this isn't brain surgery. It's Jade, dummy. It's Jade. Don't wake her. Making my way to the bathroom and switching on the light, I splash my face twice with cold water before heading off to the kitchen for coffee. When it's ready, I move to the living area and slump to the sofa, set the coffee down, and stare blankly at the opposite wall for a few seconds before my eyes drift to my left forearm, where the GPS tracker had documented my every move. I slip my hand over the spot. Contemplating your future? Jade standing in the bedroom doorway wearing one of my long-sleeve shirts that come down to the middle of her thighs. Oh, sorry if I woke you, beautiful. You didn't. I smelled the coffee. Madam, how'd you get up looking so damn sexy in nothing but one of my shirts? She's floating slowly toward me and settles in my lap and kisses me. You taste good, Mr. Russell. So do you, Miss Miro. You do remember what day it is. How could I not? You want the shower first, or should I? You go first. I need coffee. And then we engage in one of those long, delicious, wet kisses before we part. I have a wedding present for you. What? When we get back from our honeymoon, you'll hire a realtor and find us a house. And what will we use for money? I fill her in on the inheritance I received from my parents' estate. Her eyes turn misty, her arms encircle me, and we lock lips in another one of those long, wet kisses. Go, take your shower, William, or we'll be late for our wedding. An hour later, Jade appears from the bedroom in a stunning, off-the-shoulder, off-white dress that drops to the top of her white shoes. My God, she looks stunning. I'm decked out in a newly purchased dark blue suit, pale blue shirt, and...
Is it hot in here? Are you hot? I mean, you are hot. I mean...
Hi, Killa. Good to see you. How the heck are you? I'm decked out in a newly purchased dark blue suit, pale blue shirt, and red and white striped tie. We have to be best looking couple on the planet. One of us is. One of us isn't, Billy. She laughs, then twirls in place to show off that beautiful dress. Just recovering and recovering well? Good, yes. Ons told me that it went well. So I'm glad. I'm glad you are recovering well as well. Well, also. English. The first time you came to visit, I found you draped on the couch looking like a supermodel. You still do. You know exactly what to say to a lady on her wedding day, Mr. Russell. Hey, my mother didn't raise no dummy. At 9:30, Hank shows up with Stephanie Gosling, his live-in squeeze who I had not met, and a lovely lady she is. Thank you for the look. When we reach our destination on North Tremont Street, Hank parks on the... What? Nope. I'm fine. Hank parks on the eastern side of the Boston Common, inside of the Parkman Bandstand. According to Jade, who chose the location, the small, round, pillared structure used for concerts, rallies, and speeches was built in 1908 and named for George F. Parkman, in honor of a $5 million donation he willed for the care of Boston Common and other city parks. Chris, Jules, Oliver, Norman, Jason, Joe Natali, and his wife are already here. Chris is to be my best man, and Hank's lady Stephanie will be Jade's maid of honor. On this clear sunny day, with the temperature hovering around an unusual 72 for this time of year, we are to be married by Oliver Neville. In Massachusetts, anyone can perform a wedding for family or friends by obtaining a special one-time permit from the Secretary of State's office. Who knew? As the ceremony began, passers-by out for a stroll stop and watch. By the time Oliver pronounces us man and wife, about a dozen people have stopped and joined in the applause. Following the ceremony, Oliver hosts a reception at Yvonne's, a refined supper club a block east of the Boston Common. All was well in Boston that day. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the final chapter of Midnight Black. Chapter 29, That Was Then, This Is Now. My head is still swimming with all that has happened with lightning speed in the short time I set foot on the planet again. It's said that things come in threes. I always thought that was an old wives' tale. Well, I've proven that old wives' tales wrong. In my case, there would be 5. First was my freedom from the bowels of Europa. Then I was the luckiest man in the world to have met and married Jade. And then there's my inheritance, which was given me financial independence. There were 2 more to come. After a 2-week search, Jade found a lovely 3-bedroomed house on an oak tree-lined street in the Boston suburb of Brookline. A few days later, Jules announced he was selling the house and moving back to his hometown of Springfield, Massachusetts. I'm going to miss you, Jules. It's an hour-and-a-half drive. You'll come to visit. Yes, I promise. I go silent, but Jules knows me well enough to know something's on my mind. What is it, William? How do I thank you for accepting me into your life? You don't. You'll just be damn thankful I did, young man. Wise ass to the end, aren't you? Why would I change now at my age, William? Shut up and hug me. Only if you'll stop calling me William. It is 13 months since the wedding. Soon Jade will give birth to our first child. We learned it is to be a girl. Jade has suggested we name her in honor of my mother, so Amelia it will be. During my darkest days on Europa, I would never have believed that I, William Evan Russell, son of Amelia and Alastair Russell from Orban, Scotland, would be... Really? Scotland? Okay. Would be blessed with a loving wife again and impending arrival of our first child. Although I still question why we are here on Earth in the first place, I have to admit my attitude has flipped from how I once dismissed life out of hand as nothing more than a waste of time, until feeble and diseased we face death, the supreme equalizer. I now accept that every moment of life is a precious moment. When I had made my final entry in my notes, which had grown to over 300 pages, I worked up enough courage to ask Oliver if he would read it, which he did. Without telling me, he thought it was good enough to send off to a New York-based publisher friend of his. To my surprise, the publisher and his editors liked what they read and agreed to publish it. Pinch me once, pinch me twice. Oliver negotiated a publishing deal and we were off and running. Since I haven't the slightest idea how to write a book, let alone how to assemble one, the publisher assigned their top editor to help me shape the final version. I was asked to give the book a title. I came up with The Devil That Came to Visit. Europa continues to be a penal colony, but now inmates are paid a fair wage for their labor. Medical services are provided, and inmates are required to remain on Europa for no longer than 5 years of their total sentence. Their remaining time is to be served back on Earth. Since Max Minera folded, the mining of Fosteror is now controlled by a World Government Oversight Committee that ensures all countries are treated equally in the distribution of what has become an invaluable source of energy. Oh, yeah, almost forgot. The trial of President Laurent and his henchmen is underway back in France. Needless to say, everyone is anxious to see how that comes out. As for my book, I ended it with these words. Is anyone seeing an ad right now? That's not subbed. I just realized it started playing. Womp. You're not? Okay, cool. I might. Really? Okay. Karma's a bitch. Remember that. I ended it with these words. Many years ago, the Protest Democracy Project, a non-partisan, non-profit organization dedicated to fighting efforts at home and abroad to undermine our right to free, fair, and fully informed self-government, argued that the onset of authoritarianism would not come suddenly, but with the gradual taking away of long-standing norms we had come to expect. The growth and spread of democracies that defined the 20th century peaked in the early days of the 21st century. 1 in 6 democracies had failed. In countries around the world, Hungary, Poland, Turkey, and Venezuela, autocrats had slowly dismantled democratic systems, leaving governments that were, for the most part, democracies in name only. Larry Diamond, one of the world's foremost scholars on democracy, wrote, "The death of democracy is now typically administered in 1,000 cuts. In one country after another, elected leaders have gradually attacked the deep tissues of democracy, the independence of the courts, the business community, the media, civil society, universities, and sensitive state institutions like the civil service, the intelligence agencies, and the police. Once they were in power, what Protect Democracy Project had predicted was the exact game plan put into play by the People's Populist Party. Hopefully we have learned that We the people are the ultimate check on power. The downfall of the PPP proved that. We now know we must combat nefarious forces wherever we find them, for they are highly skilled in their ability to pull us apart and keep us divided. Following the revolution, we were consumed with restoring our broken lives. Yes, we were now free of the evil empire, but the age-old question loomed like a Category 5 hurricane. Would we come together for the benefit of all mankind or revert to our old ways? If we fail this time, we are not the victims but the perpetrators. Each of us is obligated to answer this question. What is our passion and what are our goals? How is each of us using the time we are given on Earth? Arturo Cadorza's initial address to the world made it clear that mankind's quest for the good we seek in ourselves must be based on placing the highest value on truth, fairness, equality, and above all, total respect for all life and rule of law. This will only be achieved if we put aside our bias and tribalistic ways and accept that we have always been and will always be a global community. When I arrived at Base Arizona at the beginning of my dark journey to Europa, all I could see was doom and gloom. My life was over. Now, for any number of reasons, I've come to believe that within all of us there is integrity, humanity, and morality. We just require the courage to do what is right, not just for ourselves, but for all mankind. Anything less will eventually hasten our extinction, leaving the planet to the bugs and animals. Perhaps the major turning point for me came when my friend Jules Summers introduced me to the writings of theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking. Hawking summed up life this way. We have this one life to appreciate the grand design of the universe, and for that, I am extremely grateful. With those words of wisdom forever etched in my memory, no matter how colorful and descriptive, will never accurately describe what I witnessed in space. I am left to wonder, if every living soul on Earth could spend just a few moments gazing out that portal on Europa 2, what would they see? The end. Or might it be the beginning? Midnight Black. Well, thank you, Mr. R.J. Eastwood, for letting me read your book. I loved the ending, especially. Throwing in the characters' ending of their own book. It's like book inception. I thought it was fantastic. So yeah, let's break down this book a little bit as a whole, shall we? So, we have this guy, Billy. He's a regular guy, DEA officer, but his wife is murdered. Doing what any guy would think to do in their minds, he actually follows through and finds the guy that did it and takes care of business on his own. He puts a bullet in his head. And for that, maybe because it was just the murder or because of his status in DEA, he spends 17 years in jail, but not just any jail. He's sent off-planet to a moon where they're mining for this special rock that's used as an energy source. But during his sentence, he gets sent back to Earth because everything's changed. The world has turned on itself. Things have gotten way worse. I'm off to bed. Hey, good night, Super. See you all in a week. Enjoy the trip. It's gonna be a good one. Probably. Positive thinking. But in this story, we find that there's this underlying... How do I want to say this? There's an underlying sheep screaming somewhere to be let out. Nailed it. Yep. There's this underlying current, this river that's flowing slowly but persistently. And it gives us this impression that even though everything seems lost, how do I say this? Things really aren't that lost. Like, on the surface, things look terrible, and it looks like there's no end. There's no bouncing back from this. It's all over. But this story has shown that faith in humanity is what you really need. And that if you try hard enough, if you band together and you believe in what you're doing, then you really can make a difference. And I think that was the underlying message here, that if you really want to make a difference for the right reasons, that you can come together, forge a common goal, and as long as you keep at it, good things will happen. And I think that's pretty cool. So, there's a lot of different ways you could take this story, but that's the way I'm looking at it, is that humanity still has a chance, even when things suck. Even right now in the United States, things look pretty grim, honestly. And there's plenty of other countries who have it worse than us, too. Politically, medically, economically, things don't exactly, if someone asked me, hey, do you want to move to America now? I'd be like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to stay here. Thanks. You go ahead. Let me know how it goes. But in all seriousness, I think this story shows us the opportunity that we really can do the right thing and make things better for everyone as a whole if we all push for that same goal. I guess it depends on where you're coming from. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I guess in my head, since I was raised in the UK, not that, if you live there, most people would say the UK is not doing much better either. So, to each their own and their struggles. The grass is not always greener on the other side. That much I know. But anyway, I was very happy to read this book. I will be emailing Mr. Eastwood to say as much when I get the opportunity. And yeah. I'm also looking forward to starting our next book, which I am now going to introduce officially. So, The Shades of Orthea. We're going to start this on Thursday, and I'm going to read the back. Just like with this book, I'll have a link that you can go check it out. This was written by a fellow streamer, That Violin Chick, and I will let her know. I told her a while ago that we were likely going to be starting on Thursday, but now I'll let her know it's official. But here's the back. What if everything you loved was destroyed? Fiona had all she desired: a loving family, a handsome fiancé, and a peaceful village. Then the Vikings came. Her family dead and her home burned, she finds herself whisked away by unseen forces to another world where everything looks the same but is so very different. She's taken in by a group of travelers who aren't what they seem, and discovers she's more like them than she expected. The Mordor General Ivar is pursuing the power of Old Grange with his disembodied companion, the sorceress Alina. Fiona and her new friends must rally together to stop this formidable force. So that is The Shades of Orthea, starting on Thursday. And hopefully with a new microphone as well. Alright. So with that being said, Rio, thank you for the raid. I appreciate you. You're an amazing person, and I don't ever want you to change, unless it's for the better, of course. Your heart is purer than a white rose. Stone Papa, thank you for the resub. Your continued support for the channel, but for me as an individual, has been unwavering since the first day I met you, and that means a lot to me. So thank you. And for all of you that were in here tonight, and for those that were lurking, that have been in and out, your presence here has made my day, my evening, even though I shared the very tough news at the beginning of stream. Being able to hang out with you guys for a couple hours has certainly lifted my spirits. And as we learn more, I will share what I can. That way, we can all stay in tune with each other, because I don't like to live life in a silo. Not when I have a community like this that can help. I miss the news. I already cried once, so I don't have to do that again. My wife had a test done on Friday. The imaging showed a mass that needs to be looked at again. We don't know what it is yet. We have to have more testing done. But we're obviously a bit shaken by the news, so that's the nuts and bolts of it, if you will. The cut and dry. So yeah, it was tough to mention when I first started streaming. It's tough now, but we'll figure it out one day at a time. And hopefully it's nothing. Hopefully it's nothing. But if it isn't nothing, we will take care of it together. Because that's what you do. Sorry, I hope there was a quick resolution for her and the family. Big hugs. Thank you. And thank you to the rest of you as well for your encouraging words and support. Like I said, I will keep you updated as I can with what I know and what I'm allowed to share. But with that being said, let's go raid. A friend of mine is having a birthday, and she's streaming a 24-hour celebration extravaganza. So we're gonna go say hello to Party Hard Games. If you're able to stick around for the raid just to show that support, I would certainly appreciate it. There's a raid message you can copy and paste if you want. I'm just gonna grab it myself. And until next time, please, please, please take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we'll see you on Thursday with a brand new book. Good night.